Welcome to the Talkin Kop. My name is Ashley. I'm here with my friend Chris, and we are here to preview the Crystal Palace versus Liverpool game in the Premier League. It's just the two of us tonight. We still have a couple of world travelers in Kev and Matt, and I think Gav is out with one of our members, Brian, doing some sort of golfing adventure. So just us tonight. Hopefully not too upset about that. Chris, how have you been this last couple of days? I haven't talked to you in a little while.
Yeah, all good. Went the women's game on Wednesday, which was
They won, right? That was a
yeah,
big victory.
yeah, 5-0 against Sunderland in the cup.
How
So it
was
was
that
nice.
emotionally?
Yeah, it was a bit of a wreck doing that, to be honest. As were a lot of people around us, but it was nice to get the first out of the way. The club did a nice tribute to him. Fans were excellent. Some nice banners about him. We did some cheers for him on minutes 13 to 14, which were the years he won the WSL titles for Liverpool, and we did a cheer on 47 for him, which is his age. So no, it's nice. I mean, as a team performance, it was good because Liverpool have a habit of making sometimes these games against a team from the division below a bit more difficult than they should do. And actually, to be fair, rotated side did really well. It was actually quite a nice routine win. So it was nice to see. And we had Sophie Lungard return from an ACL. That's her first game in a year, so that was nice to see. So that's another player who's been a bit unfortunate with bad knee injury. So it's nice to hit her back. So no, that was good. Then other than that, saw a little bit of Europa League football. Saw Rangers are still shit. I can't believe that manager's still there. It baffles me that he's still got a job. Saw the Villa game. Odd game. Villa scored, missed a penalty, and somehow felt like they were hanging on for the game. And Harvey Elliott didn't get many minutes, which was surprising. I thought he would have got a bit more minutes in Europa League, so it kind of suits his game a bit more. But other than that, that was about it. How about yourself?
I did not watch the Europa League. I took a few days off from football in general. I don't know why that Southampton game kind of took it out of me. I was really upset about the Leone injury, and I don't really know how to put my finger on it. I just feel like this club has gone through sort of a series of several hard months. And for some reason, that just felt like yet another thing that felt like had gone wrong, and that had bugged me. So I needed to take a step back. But I'm ready. I'm refreshed. We'll talk about Leone and the impact that he has on the team in a little bit. Going into this, let's talk a little bit about both of the teams, because the form tells us that these are basically two of the form sides in the league. We've got Crystal Palace on a 17-game unbeaten run. 18 is their longest streak unbeaten, so they are going for a club record there. And meanwhile, we are also with our 100% record going up against it. So do you have any strong feelings about the direction this is going to go? Do you think that this is a nailed-on tie? We'll get to score predictions later, but what's your general feeling going into this? Because there's a lot of people that are calling it, the immovable force versus, or whatever the force versus the object thing. You know what I'm talking about. For some reason, it's not coming off the tip of my tongue.
I saw, I think, from, I can't remember the first name, his surname's Reed, does a lot of Liverpool statistics. And he said, like, Liverpool's record against someone who's had an unbeaten run like this isn't great. I don't think we've beaten anyone who's been on this long a run. That was somebody who's been on a run this long hasn't been that great, which is not an ideal one. But I mean, our record at Palace is really good. It's like 9 wins and a draw in the last 10 league games there. The things I always find with Palace, I think of those 9 wins and a draw, there's the random 7-0 in the COVID season, and there's a 4-2 early Klopp, which I think Matip scores in. Other than that, they're all 2-1s, 2-0s. They're all very tight games. And I always say with Palace, they're one of the sides that Liverpool should beat, but you have to be at your best because they have a way of making their home games difficult. I mean, the crowd's really good there. Atmospheres, they do make a good atmosphere there. So, and to be honest, Palace have just got lots of good players. They're despite losing in the last couple of years, Eze and Elise, they've still got threats, and the pain in the arse for us is it looks like Adam Wharton will be fit.
Yes.
Sarr will be fit, probably not for 90. And I think Nketiah, they said, has done a week's training, so he might be in the squad. So already you're going, few options there that will cause us trouble. But
Yeah.
I still expect us to win, but it's one of those ones we just think it's going to be a tough one. And I think Liverpool fans were naturally scarred from Crystal Palace because of the 13-14 season. I don't think we ever quite get that because it had such a detrimental impact on us. But actually, since that one, we barely dropped points at their place. At our place, actually, they seem to do quite well against that.
Yeah, I mean, I think the most recent games that we've had, we had the 2-2, where it went to penalties. And then we had the 1-1 tie back at Anfield at the end of last season. We had a 1-0 win against them at home for them. But everything has been quite close. I mean, and that seems to kind of be Palace's MO. None of the games that they've won or drawn this year have been particularly high scoring. Pretty much everything is right around one goal like a game. So I don't
I
really
think
expect.
I think their last defeat, which was Newcastle, I think they got hammered by Newcastle like 4 or 5.
That
Which
was
is
a while
quite a
ago.
rare,
That was
which is quite a rarity. That I think that was the last defeat they had, and then they
yes,
went on this run.
yeah.
That's
So
such.
that was
It
right
just
around when we sealed the title versus
mm,
Spurs, which feels like forever ago.
it does,
Um,
yeah.
and for them to go that long being undefeated, I mean, Glasner's doing a fantastic job there. I think whether or not he's destined for bigger or better things, I'm not sure. But what he is doing with that squad is making them very, very hard to beat. And I think it would be hard for us not to talk about the fact that one of the reasons that they are hard to beat is Mark Guehi, who everyone knows, unless you've been living under a rock, that we were very, very close to signing. Um, Now that we've heard confirmation of Leone's ACL injury, um, how are you feeling about not getting Mark Guehi, and how are you feeling about him going into this match? Because I feel like he's just an ultimate professional. I don't actually think there's that much of a storyline there. I think there's a lot of people that are writing about it just to kind of create a mountain out of a molehill. But do you think there's
Just
anything there?
no, yeah. I mean, listen, I was gutted we didn't get him because clearly the manager wanted him. I mean, the fact that he did his medical and Palace did a goodbye video for him says he was pretty. He was, that's how close it was. And Liverpool clearly felt they needed him. Listen, we went into season with 4 centre backs. We kind of thought that would be okay. You can't legislate for an ACL, unfortunately. It's just it's a real kick in the balls for. Yes, we've only seen 80 minutes of football of him, but it was an 80 minutes of football. You went, oh, early signs are we might have got ourselves a little bit of a gem here. That we can. I was looking forward to seeing Leone in the next round to go right. Let's see what he can build on. Can he build on this? So, but yeah, Brian's not happy with saying the title wasn't gone in 24 before. The title wasn't gone in 240 before Palace game. You mad on. We had to win on goal difference, and we went 3-0 and drew 3-3. So that kind of killed it. We
Yeah,
had to beat.
I'm not gonna go back down memory lane. I just said I
Yeah,
was, not feeling great about football earlier this week. This is not gonna make me
yeah.
feel much better.
No, so yeah, so we're gonna have to make do. I mean, the article Paul Joyce is coming out saying Liverpool aren't going to go in for him, and they're going to wait till the summer.
Yeah,
Now,
I
is
thought that
that
was
a little
actually
bit?
quite interesting
Is that
because
carrot? Is that carrot by the club just to kind of say we're not going to be taken for a ride? Because I would like Liverpool to bring a centre back in because they need one anyway. Because in theory, because one of Canati or Gomez or both are going in the summer anyway. So we are going to need a centre back. So it's not like um, it's like bringing someone forward. But we've seen with Liverpool before. They have certain targets, and if they can't get those targets, they will do without, even if it means short-term pain, and that's just how they're built. We don't always like it, but I think that's just now the Joyce thing is interesting. I just wonder if that's just a little bit of is that the truth, or is that Liverpool media spinning it out to say no, we're not signing anyone because then we can't be taken for a ride. Because I think if Liverpool did go for Guehi, I think Palace would be lucky for Liverpool to bid anything close to 15 million. I don't think they go for much beyond that because he's got less than 5 months on his contract. So they're not going to big bid for him because otherwise it'd be. I just don't think they will. Whether we agree with it or not doesn't even matter.
yeah, I read that article and I thought it was interesting because there wasn't any sort of direct quote from any source at the club. There wasn't any sort of new information. He was repeating lines that he has repeated in the past, where it's typically Liverpool don't pay for players that will be available on a free. 6 months later. I think the interesting thing to point out, though, is, that might be Liverpool of the past, but we saw quite a big departure this summer from, the Liverpool way. And it is possible that changes in the winter. And I don't know if Pierce has any new, or not Pierce, but Joyce has any new information on that, or if he's just sort of reiterating what he was told over the summer after the Guehi deal kind of fell through. So I am curious because, you're talking about a pretty big outlay over the summer. You're talking about Van Dijk and Salah's last 2 years. It would feel more gambly than even FSG for them to not go into the market in January, for me.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think we could be proven wrong. I think this summer is a little bit of an anomaly. I think it was more of and people don't like the phrase, opportunity, as in we've got certain players that we know are leaving. We've got a chance to revamp the attack. We had to revamp the fullbacks due to players leaving and also just players getting older. And then they had a market opportunity in the Verts, which is the best attacking midfield that was available. And Liverpool obviously had been saving the money, storing the money, the winnings they got from winning the league. So they had the money there, so they spent it. And I kind of feel like I don't expect Liverpool to do another big summer like that. I would expect next summer it'll be 1 or 2, that'll be it, and quiet Januaries, because I kind of feel like if you spend that level of money, you should only be tweaking after that. So I would like us to get a centre half in January just to give us the depth and give us that bit of assurance, but we'll see what it is. I mean, I've seen us being linked with the lad from Bayern Munich, and I think I messaged you saying no thanks. I'd rather bring Kabak back. I just don't.
I mean,
every time I've seen him play, whether it's for Leipzig or Bayern Munich, I just think he looks like Dejan Lovren 2.0. He just looks like he's got a rick in him all the time, and I just don't see him as a Liverpool centre back. I really don't.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. I think we're going to get linked with lots of different people from here on out. I mean, there's a hole there, and they're just going to try to fill it with stories. But time will tell. I am still optimistic despite that article. I think that was probably just timing with the Guehi. We're going to put out a story. Whatever. It does bring up the question of how we sort of utilize our defense and. Do we change up our lineups going forward? Do we need to protect some of our defenders? Mainly Konate or, Gomez feel a little bit fragile to me. I don't necessarily think that this is the game that's going to happen in, but what are your feelings around that? Do you think that there's going to be more rotation there? Do you think that, Slots maybe going to be protecting them a little bit more? And do you think that this is the game that would happen? Or do you think, more of the same?
I think Konate and Van Dijk will play every Champions League and Premier League game as long as they're fit. And
even
Joe
if
Gomez,
you have a dead rubber, like a late stage, you got all the points you need for 8th.
Yeah, the meaningful one. So if it's like a late stage Champions League, then no, I don't think he will. I think you might see Reece Williams get carted out then. I think in the League Cup, I think it will go back to the Gomez Endo centre-back partnership, which is, to be honest, what we used in the League Cup pretty much until the quarter semi-finals. So I kind of feel that's what we'll do. Or you'll see your mate Robbo at centre-back just for shits and giggles, you know what I mean? But
can't wait.
But yeah, so I mean, Dan J saying what's Ben Davies up to? I can't remember what he looks like. I don't think anyone did. Anyone see him?
We didn't really see him in a red shirt, did we?
The proper hologram of football he was. That's mental.
Where is he playing now?
He did go to Rangers in fact, he played for Rangers against us in the Champions League, but I don't think he played at Anfield. I don't think he got picked for the Anfield game, which I thought was quite funny.
I think he's on loan. I think he's still a Rangers player.
I mean,
I'm pretty sure he's on loan. I don't know where.
He probably has to go.
He was at Birmingham for a while because we had a couple players that were going there. I don't think he's there anymore.
Yeah, if I was him, I'd ask to leave as well, just to get away from it.
I mean, yeah. Okay, so I'm going to say, personally, I think that this is not the game that we see that rotation. I think that we see, our Konate, Virgil partnership in the back. I think we see Allison. Maybe can you walk me through what your lineup might be and if you see any changes there from, there's obviously going to be changes from Southampton, but walk me through it. Let's see if we agree.
Yeah, before the Ekatike red card, I felt the lineup was quite easy to pick. And the obvious lineup in my head is all the lads who didn't play at the weekend could come back in. So I think it should be Bradley at right back, because I don't think Frimpong did enough in the league game to make you think he's quite there yet. I think that's someone that's come back from injury. Kirkes for Robbo, because Robbo isn't going to do 3 days in a week. Usual centre back, usual goalie. I would think midfield wise, Gravenberch, Sobersley. I think this might be the game to bring Wirtz back in and give McAllister a rest. He just became a dad on Wednesday, but we also know he's been struggling a little bit with his fitness, and I think they manage him a little bit. Salah plays because that's what Salah does. Gakpo plays because he's the other left winger, despite a lot of our fan base seem to be not liking Gakpo at the moment. Now, the obvious answer is you play Isak for an hour and hope you have the game won on the hour mark. The slight concern is we saw when Ekatike came up and we didn't have an Isak, kind of lost him through the middle, and vice versa. We're in that same spot now, also against Palace. Listen to the Anfield Wrap. There was a question of, do you go with that lineup, get it won in the hour, which is possible, but hasn't been known recently to be done at Palace, because when we play them, it's always a bit of a challenge. So the other option is you go for something slightly different as a start, and you have Isak for the last half an hour. So if you need to win the game, you use him. Which, if we are going to do that, do you go with the City starting 11, which is like the midfield box four and two wide forwards in Salah and Gakpo? So I think they're the two options. I think he'll probably go with the Isak one and then want to try and get it won on the hour, but that's the risk you take with Ekatike having a brain fart, which is, whatever, he'll learn from it.
Yeah, I actually thought it was interesting in Slot's press conference. Actually, I think it wasn't this press conference. It was the interview that he did with Ali McCoist earlier, and he talked about that City game, and he talked about the formation that they played for that, and I think it was one of the Newcastle games. And he said, that's a departure for us. That's not the way we play. And I thought that was really interesting. I thought it was interesting that he labeled it, quite clearly as, that's not the way that we play, full stop. And I think that going into this game, we might just be over-engineering it as, fan channels and whatnot. I just don't see Slot tinkering too much. I think that if he didn't have a striker at all, like if Isak wasn't there, then sure, we've seen him, fiddle around with the 10s and create that. But, we're talking about our club record signing. And he came out and said, that he's ready to play about 70 minutes, not 90, but about 70 minutes. And if we can get 70 minutes of Isak has a really good record against Palace as well.
Yeah, is he 5-5, I think?
Something like that. It's either 5-5 or 6-6. So we have him. He's fit. He came off, after 45 minutes. He responded well by all accounts. I don't think it's ideal. I don't think that Slot would have played him for 70 minutes if he was given the opportunity, but this may well have been penciled in as Isak's first league start anyways.
It's very true.
Because Slot talked about, he's at this stage in his preseason, given the fact that he didn't participate with the team in that, that he's ready for that. He's ready for that step up. So you've got one of the best strikers in the world. I don't see any reason why you would not use him and why you would, somehow create this other system for it. What happens when he comes off at 70, 75 minutes, I think, that's going to be creative. I think you may see a situation where maybe Chiesa comes in and gets a little bit of time there. It seems like he's going to be on the bench. He was also name checked in Slot's press conference. Do you think that this could be a game for Chiesa maybe to, if we do go with Isak, to get a little bit of time afterwards? Would you be comfortable with that, having seen his performance the other day?
I would actually, yeah, because I think you strike while the iron's hot. He's currently in form. It's only the one game, but look, we're starting in the game. Right wing and to be honest, left wing's probably his better position. He gets 2 assists and he works keeper a couple of times. I mean, it's always the way with an injury in football. Uh, one person's misfortunes is somebody else's opportunity, and Chiesa now has been given the big opportunity to be involved in Champions League football again for Liverpool. You know,
Yep, that was
um,
officially confirmed today. So he
yeah.
is he is
Is it?
on the
You know,
list now.
maybe it's written in the stars that Chiesa's going to have a bit of an Origi season and just get lots of late big goals in Europe, in the Champions League and in the league, which would be great because look, he's very likable. We all know the talents there. It's just whether he can A, stay fit and B, adapt. I also think it's probably a good thing because it takes a little bit of pressure off Rio. Because I think it was a good thing for her. I think Rio found it a bit tough against Southampton because he was doubled up on start from the start, and they were doubled up from the start. Which look, he's 17; he's going to have to get used to that. Which is probably why at the moment I've always felt he's a good sub for these games because it's tired legs. You're not going to 10 minutes ago. They're less likely to double up on a 17, and if they do, they then leave Mo Salah free. So it plays to our strengths there. At least with Chiesa, he's got more nous and ability.
Yeah, I think
No, I'm sorry. Ability is probably the wrong word. Sorry.
he's definitely got more experience. And
That's
I
the word.
think that when push comes to shove, sometimes that's worth its weight in gold. And I think that with Chiesa, it's always just about getting him up to fitness. Like, we know how good of a player he can be. It's just, can he reach that again? And that Southampton game was really the first time that I felt like that was a complete performance from him. I feel like in the past I've seen glimmers of what he can do, and he is really, really efficient in front of goal, and he tends to work the keeper. He knows how to get a shot on target, and I really like that about him. But I haven't really seen him do some of the working back, some of the tracking back and the defensive work, and I saw a lot of that in Southampton. I saw a lot of him, like, even just holding onto the ball, winning corners at the very end, like killing time, all of that. That was really impressive.
Yeah.
And I
So
feel like
maybe
that must have been
maybe
his
that's
first 90 minutes. It's
yeah.
got to have been.
Maybe that's a switch we look at then. If on the 70 mark with Isak is once Isak goes off, you bring Chiesa on, but play more as a 10, and maybe that's when maybe like a Wirtz or someone gets a rest, and you play a solid, the traditional midfield three we have of McAllister, Gravenberch, Soboslai, and you leave Chiesa just in front of them, just as a different option because he looked even more effective once we put him central, drifting them. I
Yeah,
mean,
I liked him off the left too. Like,
well, I think that's
I
where the
liked
winning goal
him.
came from because he was central. He was able to drift a bit more left, and that's where his best position is. Probably coming in for left. Most of our attackers are, apart from
Yeah.
Salah.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. I mean, I think Slot actually confirmed that he would be on the bench. He said, that this was a chance for Chiesa to be on the bench and maybe get minutes, was his exact quote. So I expect him to be there. You were talking about your standard midfield, maybe giving McAllister a rest. Do you think Jones has any role to play here? Do you think he comes on sort of as a late sub?
I think Jones will be a sub. I think he might get his first start against Galatasaray. I think
Right.
that might be the game to start with. And I think an away game will probably be better for Jones because he's kept the ball and spare whenever we've put him on. I think he's done really well. Keeps the ball. He's kept things ticking over. He gives a bit of impetus. I think he's a good sub for us to bring on. The fact he got was it 60, 70 minutes against Southampton. I think he's still building back up after his niggles that he had. So, listen, if Jones starts, I'm fine with it. I just think he'll stick with Gravenberch, Soboslai because they literally had a week. They literally had a week off, so you may as well. I think that's the point of giving them a week off is to start them in this game because Galatasaray historically can be a tough game because of the crowd they have and the atmosphere as an away game. But as you rightly pointed out, they got absolutely smacked by Frankfurt.
Yeah, I think it
So
was
I do
5-1, I think.
Yeah. So if you ask me at the moment who's a tougher game, I think Palace would be a tougher game than Galatasaray. So I think if you're going to make a couple of rotational changes, I think that might happen more on the Tuesday game against Galatasaray than the Saturday game against Palace. I could be wrong, but
I
that's how I
agree
see
with
it.
you. I don't think you're wrong. I do agree with you, and I think that we've got Chelsea coming up as well next weekend. So you've got 3 pretty significant games in a row. And I think that Galatasaray is the one that I would imagine there's some rotation. But this is sort of where you get into the business part of the season where, you have these 3 games a week and you really start to see, how does Slot want to rotate? Is he going to rotate? Another thing in that interview with McCoy that he said was, last season, I recognized that I did not rotate as much as I probably should have. And he says that it was part of the reason why they won the Premier League was the fact that he didn't rotate, but it was also part of the reason that they lost, whether it's the Champions League or some of the other league cups. He felt himself that he needed to have more rotation. So I am curious to see if, the sort of actions echo the words that he was saying there. Let's talk a little bit about the team just vaguely that we expect Glasner to put out. I'm assuming it's going to be a back 5, probably Munoz, Guehi, Richards, LaCroix, and Mitchell. We've got Henderson in goal, obviously. I think that stays the same. You've got Wharton that's fit. Hughes maybe in midfield.
I think Wharton will start, won't he?
Yeah, Wharton will be there. Yeah, for sure. But who pairs him? Maybe Hughes?
It could be. Who's the lad who paired him in the Charity Shield? He played well. It wasn't Hughes who started. It was the other.
I don't remember.
The other chap. 2 seconds. Let me get their team up from.
Okay. Yeah, I don't have the Rain Man memory that Gav does. And then, while you should
see him counting toothpicks.
While we look that up, I'll just touch on the forwards. I'm expecting Sarr to be available for at least part of this.
I think he'll start.
He's one of their most dangerous threats against us specifically. I don't know if that's some sort of vendetta for the fact that we almost signed him and then never did, but he always turns up against us. And then I think it'll be Mateta, who tends to, constantly battle it out with Van Dijk. And then I don't know if Pino will be fit or not. I think he's sort of a potential.
I'd look on Physio Room. They had him down as he's trained the last 2 or 3 days, so he should be available. Maybe not from the start. He may be on the bench. So it might be Justin Devane who'll come in for now. I think Nketiah will be on the bench and come off the bench. Jefferson Lerma is the other one who's sort of in and around the bench. If he's not if he doesn't start, he'll definitely come off the bench.
Okay. Yeah, for me, Mateta is always a threat, and Sarr is always a threat, and I think that Sarr, especially running, down that side. I don't know. He's not a player that gives me nightmares, but I know he's a player that's really effective against us, and I can't quite put my finger on why that happens. But sometimes players are just, perfectly fit against your team. I do wonder, do you think that Slot has spent a little bit of time really analyzing Crystal Palace a little bit like he did with Forest? I've joked around, that maybe this is his new Roman Empire to kind of focus on, because it does seem like he's had a little bit of trouble, with these Glasner teams recently. And I wonder if, maybe you're right. Maybe he comes up with something completely creative for this. But I do wonder if he's spent some time really thinking about how to tackle this, because I don't know if we've looked as effective against Palace as we have against other teams.
Yeah, in his 3 games against Palace, it was a 1-0 win at their place with an early Jota goal. And as Madge points out, we also had to play Jaros for the last 15 minutes because Ali pulled his hamstring. 1-1 at Anfield, but we're all pissed. So, and then, to be fair, second half at Wembley, they were the better side.
They were the better side at Anfield too.
Yeah. So they are a difficult side, but Palace are one of those sides where they always seem to cause problems to the bigger teams. I think it's because they're quite happy for us to have the ball, and having the likes of Sarr, Mateta, who's fantastic at the link play, and then the likes of Sarr to run off him, causes us issues. Munoz, as Jonathan points out, is a danger, especially when they play him as a wing back. So if he takes some of his defensive responsibility away and he runs all day, he'll give Kirkes a good test. This will be a good test for Kirkes, because his last away game was Burnley and he had a nightmare. if we're honest, he didn't start great and he got hooked quite early. So this is a chance for him to sort of redeem himself. I think Bradley makes sense to the other side. I think he's just hitting form at the right point. But on the plus side, looking for us, at the moment, Gravenberch, Szoboszlai, you can't not start either of them. They're the two informed midfielders,
Yeah,
which is why I'm saying
arguably in the entire league.
Which is why I'm saying McAllister. It's McAllister or Wirtz, and you can make an argument for either. McAllister hasn't got going yet this year, which is fine. He's coming back from a niggle, but the other two are carrying the load. And Wirtz, is slowly adapting to the league, and we're still seeing flashes of that. And again, I think if you're going to play a back five, like with the Burnley game, this feels like a game where you want a Wirtz, because if you're going to play a back five, you need someone to pull them apart. Because what you don't want to happen is a double up on Mo. And probably the other thing is, this is a game maybe Gakpo, can get the monkey off his back for away goals. I don't think he's had an away goal for a little while, Gakpo. A lot of home goals, not too many away goals. So it'd be quite nice for Gakpo possibly to break that away duck and, just hit back to the level he was at last year. I don't think he's been poor this year, but I don't think he's quite got to last year's level yet. But, still early in the season.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like he might be tasked with dropping back into the midfield again and doing some of that work covering their runners, because whether it's Sarr, whether it's Munoz, I feel like there's going to have to be a lot of work off the ball that's done by more than just our defenders. I feel like the way that Palace are able to overload certain areas means that we have to really be on it from that perspective. Yeah, it's a curious one. I think that Slott's going to probably just go with, more of the tried and trusted. I don't think he's going to experiment. I think it's going to be, pretty much what we've laid out here. I don't see anyone. I don't see Chiesa starting. I don't see Rio starting. I think the big question is McAllister, and does McAllister fit in or feature off of the start? I think that Wirtz has to come back in, because you're not gonna keep him out for 2 games in a row. I think I tend to agree with you there, unless you somehow find a way to maybe. I hate Szoboszlai at right back, but unless he goes back to that, I don't know.
I think Szoboszlai at right back is literally he tried out for a couple of games while his other right backs were getting fit. I think it's just there as a break glass option. That's what I think was that one. The only other wild card you could do, if you want to think, is this a game where perhaps Rio gets complete rest? He's had quite a few games. He's had his first meaningful start of the season, and because we haven't got Ekitike, do you have Danz in the squad as your last 15 minutes throw on? Because at least then that keeps the style the same, and to be fair to Danz, whenever he comes on the pitch, either scores or he's involved.
That's not a bad shout. I thought he looked really, really good against Southampton. He was able to hold the ball up well. He at least feels more samey, so maybe you could have Chiesa in for Gakpo, and then
he's also he's also comfortable on the left doing the donkey work if needs be.
Yeah, I think that was his first start, that Southampton game. So I don't know where he is recovery-wise. I don't know where he is fitness-wise.
I don't think he will do that, but that may be the wild card of, because you haven't got Ekitike, do you go with Danz? Because that's kind of like stylistically similar to Isak Ekitike, so you've still got a central option, and he's had a few games Premier League-wise, and he's got pace and physicality. Gives you something a bit different. And it's no slight on Rio, just give him a little breather. And then, because he'll come back into the Champions League squad, he'll probably be on the bench for Chelsea, and he'll definitely start the Palace game in the League Cup.
Do you think he'll be on the bench for Chelsea, just given the history between them? And do you think that? Okay.
Yeah. And if it was me, but I would make sure he got on for the last 5 minutes,
just for niggles.
Just for niggles, and also just to prove, look, this is what he's getting. Because I do think at some point that's going to hurt Chelsea, where players are starting to go, well, all you're doing is buying new ones. So eventually, I think they're starting to see youth players going, I'm going to go elsewhere because I'll get games elsewhere. And Liverpool have shown, despite going for titles, being involved in cup runs, young players will get opportunities, and young players, if they do well, will be kept in the squad and not just done for the odd League Cup game. Look at Rio so far this season; he's been thrown in to help win us games 2 or 3 times.
Yeah. Speaking of that, do you think that this is going to be another one of those games that goes down to the wire, or do you think that? Okay.
Yeah, because why would it not?
I mean,
I'd like it not to be. I'd like it.
I would like it not to be. I'm pretty sure I read a statistic earlier that said that Palace hadn't actually gone down by a goal so far this season. They'd either been leading or just drawing throughout the entire match, and that they hadn't actually gone down to anyone. So that would be interesting to see how they respond to that. I'd love to get an early goal just to kind of like pull them out, because I do think that they're going to sit off. They've got that bank of 5 at the back that they're happy for us to just have the ball and be like, hey, break us down. And they're a better version of Burnley in that regard, much better. And I do wonder, are we just going to see more of that kind of banging your head against a wall Burnley scenario where we're not really penetrating? I'm hoping that maybe, with Wirtz and Isak involved together off, from the start, maybe that's the impetus we need to really have that cutting edge. Because I would really like to get a goal ahead and not have to be biting. I mean, thankfully I'm not a fingernail biter, but I imagine that if you are, you don't have any more fingernails watching Liverpool. And I think that people, would love a little bit of a respite from that. I'm just not sure it's going to come here. I think in simulations that Liverpool like edged it just slightly, but it was like a 25% chance of a draw. And I kind of feel like, maybe we might be heading in that direction. How are you feeling about your score predictions and your goal scorers?
Yeah, I'm just having a look. I'm trying to see what Palace's last couple of results have been like.
So they drew versus Sunderland, which was
disappointing,
sort of surprising. They had 1.8 xG though. They did give it a go. They've had quite a few draws in there.
In fact, so far this season, their only home win has been in the Europa Conference. Sorry, because looking at the rest of them, it was a draw 1-1 with Forest, and then they drew at home to Sunderland. So all their goals and performances have actually been away from home. To be fair,
yeah. So
even they went through against Millwall in the League Cup, it was 1-1 draw at home through on penalties. So they're not at the moment, touch wood, they're not free-flowing scoring at home, but they're free-flowing scoring away. Away from home, they've got 3-0 wins, and they've been more.
I mean,
more
that was
difficult.
versus Villa, so make of that what you will.
Let's take advantage of him. Bob's gone 3-0, Isak 2, and Gakpo 1.
Okay,
so
I like
nice.
that.
I'm gonna go, and you're gonna hate it, Ash. 2-1. Salah will get the first one, and Virgil van Dijk. And Virgil van Dijk with a header from a corner in the 90th minute.
I mean, I'd be okay with that, because that would make me very happy if we actually get these corners going.
That kind of feels like the way it's gone. I'd love it to be like Dan Jay's 4-1 Liverpool, Isak, Salah, Virgil. That'd be great. I'd love that.
That would be nice. I don't know. I mean, I feel like it's probably more likely to be like a 1-0 sort of like Burnley, where you're just fighting it out, and then at the end someone makes a little breakthrough. Like, I'd love like a Wirtz to get a breakthrough here. Maybe see some of that quality. We talk about bringing him in for teams that sort of sit back. I'd love to see that. I'd love to see a link up between Wirtz and Isak as well, which would probably imply an earlier goal.
We did see in Isak's first involvement with Wirtz. They linked up quite quickly, and you think they'd only had like 2 training sessions. They
feel like really high IQ footballers together. Yeah. Like I feel like they just understand where the other player is going to be, and I think that when that clicks, that's going to be a magical partnership. I don't know if this is going to be the match, but yeah, I'm going to go for a narrow victory, 1-0 to Liverpool.
Who's getting the 1?
I'm gonna go for the Wirtz Isak combo, and I think.
I mean, Salah is 9-15 against.
That would be. I'm always in favor of a Salah goal. He's been a little bit quiet recently.
Yeah. Only one person's got a better goal record against Palace for us than Salah.
Okay. Yeah.
I'll let you work out who that one is. He was also quite good.
One person. Like Suarez? I don't know.
No, it was Sadio Mane. He got 10 in
Okay.
10. He loved Palace.
Mm,
John Summers has got a
that's
question
true.
for us.
That's true.
Hi guys, how does FSG buying Getafe affect us in the long term, in your
It's a
opinion?
good question. We should actually touch on that. So thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, it's the whole multi-club ownership thing, which is why Edwards was brought back, because it was to head all that side of it. I'm not massively a big fan of the whole multi-club conglomerate thing like City have, and I think Chelsea have got, but sadly it feels the way football's going. I think for us, it doesn't really, I suppose in a way, it doesn't really affect us in my head, because it'd be like a pyramid. And I kind of feel like for FSG, Liverpool are the top of the pyramid. So it'd be that weird thing of if Getafe get anyone really good, don't be surprised to get Liverpool try and buy them. It's how it affects Getafe probably from a European perspective, because to be fair, they're doing quite well in La Liga this year. I think they're about fifth, aren't they? I think they're sort of ticking along quite well in La Liga. That's the bit I don't know about, is the whole how ownership impacts it. Because I know Brighton's owner has a share now in Hearts, but apparently he's bought enough shares that he can have influence in terms of bringing in data analysis, bringing in money, but not enough influence that if Hearts got into Europa League, they wouldn't be allowed in with Brighton. If you know what I mean, he's kind of edged his bets in that he doesn't have that conflict of interest where they're going to be accused of like Palace went through this year.
Yeah, I'd imagine. So for me, again, it's tough to speak on this because the multi-club ownership is such a delicate topic, and I don't like it from a supporter's perspective. I don't like what it does to clubs where it makes them feel like feeder clubs. That doesn't feel right to me. It doesn't feel right to be able to take over a team's, culture and fan base and sort of be like, okay, well now you belong to us. Um, so from that perspective, not my favorite thing. If I take out my emotional, aversion to it, and I look at it purely from, is this the direction of travel that's happening? I understand it. I understand it from the perspective that, FSG are trying to be smart in every area that they can be in order to compete with, these city states. And this is another way to do that. And especially when you have the city states actually doing this as well, whether it's City and Girona and some of these other clubs, or Chelsea and Strasbourg or something. When you've got these big clubs doing it already, it's like you gotta kind of like join them in order to be competitive, which I just don't like. It doesn't sit well with me. I guess if I'm looking at it from FSG's perspective, I understand wanting to create this pathway for some of these younger players. I think if you look at, our loan system hasn't been amazing recently. And I think that there's opportunities here for younger players to get real meaningful minutes.
Well, City have done that, even though they weren't technically supposed to, but that's what they've done.
I know they're not technically supposed to, but that's what's happening. That's what's happening in Chelsea. That's what's happening at City. You have these players like a Savinho or whatever that are coming from these clubs, and that's where they're getting their minutes. And I think the other thing here that is really the key thing is the Brexit rules on the young players coming into the, into the club system, or the academy system, rather. I think that what they're trying to do is find a way to deal with that. And this would allow them to scout players on the continent and bring them into that club system, and then again become a feeder system. Doesn't sit right with me, but it seems like that's the way forward, and that's the loophole that's been created.
Sam Tandy's two theory says, so when Girona face Getafe, it will be the Man City Liverpool Spanish derby, and he says this is where Klopp goes next. Klopp is going to manage Getafe. It's all part of a master plan.
I mean, I don't think you're totally off base. I don't think that it involves Klopp, but I think that there has been a master plan for quite a long time, and I think it actually started with Red Bull. And it did start with Klopp, and Klopp really loved that Red Bull model, and I think...
Well, that's what they based the AXA on, wasn't it?
It was, but there was a point where I think Klopp was going to get more involved with the Red Bull model and do more, but then someone at Red Bull died, and I forget who it was off the top of my head. It was one of the big directors at Red Bull. Died right when we were sort of partnering with them in behind the scenes. The name is not going to come to me because it's just a total random. But I think that's where this started. I think that the idea of this sort of network where it's less, I don't know if they want it to be as feeder clubby as a Girona and a City or as a Strasbourg and a Chelsea. I think they would rather it go in the direction of the Red Bull group, where it feels more like this harmonious, like no one's taking players per se. They're all kind of working at it together, if that makes sense. I think that's their goal.
Yeah, it gets to a point, but even in that Red Bull system, Leipzig's still the king. All the best players still tend to go to Leipzig. If they're going to do that, you do tend to see that's where they go. A la Szoboszlai went up through their system and all that. So look at the rest of the weekend though. Should we just pick out a couple of fixtures just to talk around some because they're around our rivals,
sure.
and some of the shits and giggles. So
we'll start. Lead us through that.
We'll start with shits and giggles. Brentford, Man United, early kickoff.
I think Brentford will be okay, actually. I think Man United had their moment in the sun, and I think that was a blip, and I think that it largely was, Sanchez's doing. That
system works as long as you're playing one man more.
Yeah, I mean, great, that's fine. I think they probably just fizzled out all their energy in the Chelsea game. I'm gonna go for a draw on this one.
Yeah, I've got a draw as well. This is now becoming a derby. Chelsea-Brighton.
Chelsea's been on a bit of a mad run recently. They rested players for Bayern. They lost in the Bayern game. And then obviously they had the, catastrophe of the weekend. I mean, they're slowly slipping out of, whatever title race that they assumed that they were in. I don't know. Brighton is one of those teams that I never know what Brighton's going to show up. That's the thing. Like, they're not consistency.
I feel Brighton a bit underwhelming this year.
I mean, they seem to do really well against City.
They like City.
They really do like City, and they like playing us, unfortunately. And I think maybe those bigger teams that are trying to come out and play actually suit Brighton. So I kind of edge Brighton on this just slightly.
I've got 2-1 Chelsea just because it's at home, but I'd be quite happy.
I mean, Palmer is out. It looks like he's going to be out for a while, at least 2 to 3 weeks. So it seems like he'll be out for our game. I mean, I don't put any credence in that.
It seems like the Club World Cup might have made players get injured. Who'd have thought that? Eh?
There's actually a few big name players that are out across.
Yeah, Fofana's got
just went out.
Yeah.
You have a few players at PSG as well. I think it's going to happen more often, to be honest.
I think so. Of the other 3:00 kickoffs, there's Leeds Bournemouth, which is not very exciting.
I think Bournemouth win that.
Man City at home to Burnley, which is just going to be we won't talk about. Oh God, 5:30. Forest against Sunderland. Fucking hell, that's not an exciting game.
I mean, I don't know. It could be exciting if Sunderland takes something out of that. And Sunderland has been kind of the surprise of the season for me so far.
Yeah, and Forest obviously played in Europe midweek, so it'd be interesting.
And they drew very late. They were leading, and then they, again, just kind of let it fall away at the end. So
shame in it.
And
then the late kickoff. And the late kickoff is Spurs against at home to the Everton Slayers of Wolves, which should just be a walk in the park for Spurs.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to go anywhere. I mean,
so Sunday's probably the interesting day. You've got Villa, Fulham. Villa had the late 1-0 win against Bologna, where Fulham had a full week to prepare for this.
I think Fulham. I don't think Villa has cleared any sort of hurdle. I think they're still deep in the doldrums here.
And then this has become a weird hated
rivalry.
We hate around, but also some very odd fan bases. Davey T aside, because we like Davey T.
This feels like the two. again, sorry, Davey T, but like the two kind of pretenders to the throne that are, fighting it out.
But they really hate each other, these two. There's a real dislike in the fan bases to each other. Arsenal fans are still good on about this. Wasn't it, over the line routine from about 2-3 years ago. Still,
I mean, is there like an event that sort of started this recently?
I think it was that game, and then they've been winding it. Davies gone 2-0 to the tune. See what Arteta blames. It could be the round ball.
I would be happy for that to happen.
I've got a draw.
I think that this will be really interesting. I'm curious to see what midfield Arteta puts out here because, I mean, that for me is Newcastle's strength, is their midfield. And does he just go with that uber conservative, like Marino, Zubamendi, and Rice? Or, like, is he going to add a little bit of creativity to that? Because he spent so long in his stupid press conference talking about how, we are offensive, we are this, we are that, and
he's got an offensive. Apparently, he's got an offensive goalkeeper. I was like,
apparently he's the most offensive goalkeeper in the entire world.
Whatever an offensive goalkeeper is.
So I'm curious to see if
he's very David Brent now, isn't he? Like, I've had CEOs ringing me saying how what we did to City. I'm like, yeah, great. City sat back, holding on to wanting a 1-0 win, and let you have the ball, and you got a late equaliser. It's a bit like. I wish the journalists had to which CEOs. I call them out in this bullshit. Which CEOs, which managers? Oh, I can't say that.
He has like a little like notebook with it all written down or whatever.
Yeah.
Like he feels like the kind of guy that just like listens to like podcasts when he wakes up in the morning while he's brushing his teeth, like self-help podcasts.
He's definitely got a Twitter account.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
he's definitely got a Twitter account that follows like all pro Arsenal stuff. And
he's
says,
got something going on, but
yeah.
We'll see. I think that's probably that's clearly the match of the weekend, and I think
it'd be a good game.
What I would love is for us to win tomorrow to put pressure on that match because I think that's
what you want. That's what you want is just keep putting the pressure on them because they are out for two at the moment. Arsenal are the bigger threat than City at the moment. City still look a little bit of a work in progress, but like most most villains in movies, you can never write City off. They always come back.
Yeah, well, they're gonna. I think that's pretty clear they're going to get points this weekend. I think the other thing, Jonathan makes a really good point here. Arteta's probably going to flog Saka now that Madueke is injured. So we saw Madueke come off with some sort of a knee niggle injury. It's not an ACL. I think it's an MCL.
MCL. I think it's 6 weeks.
Yeah, it's like 2 months to come back from an MCL. So it'll be interesting to see, especially with Saka's hamstrings and everything that's going on there, how. It's probably not even a question. He's just going to run Saka into the ground because that's what he does.
He got loads of minutes against. I mean, he played that most of the first team against Port Vale. It was the most. I couldn't believe it.
He played a really strong team against Port Vale. Actually, I mean, there were a lot of first team starters in that. I mean, I don't know. They've got the strength in depth now too. So I don't know. That's something that. Worth keeping an eye
on. Final game, which is Monday Night Football, which is Everton.
Monday night game.
Yeah, Monday night game. Yeah. Everton at home to West Ham. Which is this the last game for for Potter? Because I can't say anything. I can't see anything other than Everton win.
If Moyes was the one that kind of killed Graham Potter, that would be funny.
Yeah, I mean, as much as I love to wind the Blues up, and it's really funny they got knocked out of the League Cup. I just can't see them not beating West Ham at home. West Ham seem a very sorry side at the moment.
They're a weird side. I feel like they're able to turn it on in like brief bursts of about 20 minutes. We saw that against Forest. They just were able to kind of turn it on. But yeah, I'm with you. I think that this is one of those like poetic full circle moments where Moyes probably puts like the nail in the coffin for Potter, and especially with the international break coming up, I think you could see. Movement happening there. It wouldn't surprise me if Nuno moved over there.
Jonathan, this is the classic Everton 1-0 West Ham.
I mean, that would be lovely.
It would be also. Oh, Fasta Torso is brilliant. The Skeletor derby.
Jeez.
Oh dear. David T's gone 1-1 because he says West Ham are better away from home. Oh, there we go.
Okay.
Okay.
I mean, it's the bar's pretty low for them to be better, but
Well, yeah. So before we go, don't forget to like, and subscribe. Become a member. Give it a try for a month. See what you think. It's like the cost of a pint. We do loads of shows. You'll have missed it this week. Ash did a really good process show where we're able to look at clips of what the referees missed and whether it was good or bad or indifferent and replay them. We also do a match reaction show, which we all do on YouTube, me and Ash. But then we also do a match reaction extra where we're able to look at the highlights of the games and slow things down and sort of go over key events. Well, whereas obviously me and Ash go on vibes and how we feel, but then you actually look back at things and go, oh, maybe that wasn't as bad as you thought, or in some cases, Ash, we go, oh, that tackle's worse than you think it is when you look at the replay. So and look, it keeps the channel going, and also if you're looking at the game and it's a 3 o'clock game, so you can't watch it in the UK, but we do have partners, NordVPN, really good cybersecurity, also help you watch things that are geo blocked. I'll let you join the dots, but if the links in the description below, it'd be great if you use them as well. It also helps the channel keeps it going. Ash, before we go, anything from you?
no, I think we covered everything. I'm just hoping for something that doesn't cause heart palpitations tomorrow would be nice.
Just watch the United game. That will give you any heart palpitations. It might bore you.
Yeah, I mean the Arsenal game will probably do the same. But yeah, I just kind of want to see some composure here, and I'd like to kind of just. I feel like if we beat Palace, as much as it's just Palace, I do feel like for some reason that would be like a statement, because they've been so difficult to beat recently. I'd love to be the one that just kind of ends that record for them, and I'd love if Mo Salah was one of the ones that kind of ended that record, because he loves to do that. So yeah, probably up the record ending Reds, and I mean that in our favor.
Yeah, there you go. On that bombshell, we'll go out. So listen, thanks very much. Keep your eye out. Me and Ash will definitely be back for post match reaction. I think it might just be you and me again.
It might be. I don't know if Gab's going to be around or not. But like I said, we've got some world travelers going right now. I think Matt's off meeting with like the previous prime minister of Vietnam or something like that. He's doing really, really important things. So we're just here doing like our lowly little post match reaction. So whenever
our stuff's well better. Matt's jealous, really.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. But yeah, some of us will be back definitely tomorrow afternoon to recount the match. It'll definitely be me. It'll definitely be Chris and whoever else is around. So yeah, check us out then. We will be back, and hopefully we'll be back in good spirits. So
cool.
As for that, I will let you take us out, Chris, and have a good evening, everyone.